tired. I'm really tired. I don't know why. It's the weather. The weather's been kicking my butt. It's 1,000 degrees in Vegas. It's 99% humidity. It's miserable. I've been miserable for the last few days. Right? I do know on the air. Rolando, stop screaming at me. So this is Derek Weston, and this is Talking While Black, and I have two non-black people today. Black Past Day. We have Chairman of the Clark County Democratic Party, Chris Miller.
Good morning, Derek.
Good morning, Chris. And then we have congressional candidate for Congressional District 4, Lucy Flores.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. Lucy's, and I'm just unabashed here. There are no sort of like rules of, I don't know, even-handedness. I am unabashedly a Lucy fan. That doesn't mean I'm just going to give you softball questions, but I am unabashedly a fan of yours. Ever since I've known you, you've been very, very fair and welcoming to so many different communities. You've made it a point to reach out to other communities rather than just the Latino or just women. I mean, you're all over the place. And being a gay black person, you're probably one of the first people that I met in politics who I didn't feel like I had to explain the gay to, which I think is really cool. Christian is obviously my best friend. He's around.
I'm just around sometimes.
He's just around. So yeah, my car, Dolce is dirty.
Dolce is dirty. I pulled up today and saw Dolce outside, and dude, Dolce needs a bath.
Dolce needs a bath and an interior washing too. You know what? I'm sorry, Dolce. Dolce Malaika. So okay, the struggle is real. Let's talk about this. So I get up this morning and I go to put on my black leather shirt because I figured I'll be on air conditioning, but it doesn't seem to be working around here, and it's wet. Did it rain last night?
It did rain last night.
Yes.
Okay, because evidently there's a leak in the roof and my leather shirt is right under it. And I'm like, yeah, the struggle is real. It's hard out there for a black man.
But even though it's hard out there for a black man, we really needed that rain. So
yeah, okay. Yeah,
I'm going to ask you to stop complaining a little.
Yeah, don't complain.
Okay? We're in a drought. It's a very serious issue for Nevada. You said you weren't going to throw softballs.
It's always somebody else. It's always somebody else's struggle.
Why would you want to wear leather in this weather?
Exactly. I completely agree.
Let's just be honest. It looks good on me. So I just, real quick, I just want to talk to folks. June 2015 is the month that America lost its freaking mind about race. And from that Rachel DeLuca woman who only got, taken off the news, the way it ran was this. Black men were getting murdered all over, unarmed black men by police officers. Then it seemed like nobody really wanted to talk about that. So all of a sudden, this white woman who pretended to be black came on the news and dominated everything. And the sad thing is the only thing that got her off the news was the slaughter of 9 people in a church by a terrorist. And to me, that just said a lot about America. And then, of course, the way that America then, when I say America, I mean white America then tried to say, well, this wasn't a terrorism issue. This wasn't anything that serious. It was more about mental issues. It was more about gun control. It was like, no, it's about terrorism. 2 Chechens attack Boston, and it's terrorism. This guy goes into a black church, says he's doing it for a reason. It's not terrorism. It's terrorism. So there was that. We just recently did the Decision Day rally, which celebrated the fact that the gays can finally get married, and divorced, as Rolando would say. And I dealt with another kind of racism. I dealt with gay racism, which is probably worse. I've never been treated in a racist manner, honestly, by straight people, but gay people, y'all are racist as hell. And we had to deal with that. So we were talking about taking this show 5 days a week and trying to decide on a title for it. And, I talked to Chris and I talked to other people about what to call it. And I started thinking last night and this morning, I've gone my entire life, like since me and Jesus used to hang out up at the club, and I've never dealt with racism. I mean, I've dealt with it here and there, and I thought about it. When we talked about changing the name of the show to Talking About Derek or the Derek Washington Show or something like that, well, this morning I made a decision. and I was talking to Rolando about it. We're going to stick with Talking While Black, because Talking While Black with Derek Washington. But the reason that we're going to stick with it is I'm black, I'm gay. I don't know of anybody else out there. Rolando throws his hands to his face and goes, "Oh my God, I did not know." I had to tell you a story about Rolando. So when Rolando first, many moons ago, offered me the opportunity to do a show on a station, we've been talking for a while, we met and all that stuff. And so finally he says, yeah. And so I said, yeah, this will be cool. I mean, having a black show on your station. And he says, "You are black?" So then he says, yeah. And so I said, "I'm gay." He goes, "You are gay?" And I said, yeah. And he's still cool with that. He's totally cool. I said, "Yeah, black, gay, Democrat." "You are a Democrat?" That was too much. So anyway, it's Talking While Black with Derek Washington. Going forward, we're going to do 5 days a week. We're going to decide when we're going to do that. But it's just important to me, I think, that there's a place for black people to talk. And obviously neither one of you are black, but I think both of you either have some insight or you have some influence that affects black folks. Chris, you're chairman of the party. Since you've been there, you've been really big on getting diversity into the party. Lucy, I've never known you to be anything but inclusive. So that's why y'all are here. Going forward, I'm probably going to aim more towards black issues, black people, and all that kind of stuff. But I just think it's important that I don't abandon my blackness in pursuit of something else. So it's going to stay Talking While Black. So.
Well, I think it's a great title, and I think it's a necessary title, especially in today's environment. I mean, we talk about today's times, but today's times have always been America's times. We've just never actually talked about it, which is why your title is so appropriate. And frankly, I read quotes from people like, Morgan Freeman, who says we should stop talking about race. Mm-hmm. And, some folks who agree with that and some folks who don't. I absolutely do not agree with that. I think that the more that you talk about issues, the more that you're able to have a dialogue, hopefully an educated dialogue or respectful dialogue, that we start to learn about each other's experiences. And just because I'm not black doesn't mean that I haven't experienced some kind of discrimination or some kind of racism or some kind of something, right? Because I'm different in some way, whether because I'm a woman or whether because I'm Latina or whether because I've chosen also to speak about other issues that people don't like to talk about, like abortion or domestic violence. All of those things are realities for people. And until we start to really talk about those things, I think that we kind of inadvertently sometimes put ourselves in a little bubble and we pretend that these things don't exist and it's swept under the rug and nothing gets done about it.
Nothing gets done. So, I think resentment builds up.
I think that the first step absolutely is being able to talk about it. And, look, people aren't going to like it. Some people aren't going to like it because it's not comfortable. And people don't like to do things that are uncomfortable. But frankly, that's where change comes from. It comes from being okay with being uncomfortable.
Right. And I couldn't have said it better, actually. Okay, now there's something I ask every politician. In the minute, Chris, you know what it is that I ask every politician?
No.
Yes, you do.
Well, go ahead and ask her, then I'll remember.
Okay. What's your point?
What's my point?
Mm-hmm.
Does it have to be a singular point?
No, just what's your point?
He does ask every politician this question.
Because I have lots of points.
But to me, what's your point means simply this, why you? Why are you doing what you do? Because a lot of politicians, I'll just be honest, run because they think it's a pretty thing to run. They think it's to fill their ego. So what's your point?
Well, I've always told people that there's only two kinds of politicians. There's the people who absolutely want to do something for people from all parties. Everybody obviously comes from their perspective, but regardless of what partisan affiliation you have, you want to do something. You want to serve your community. You want to do it in the way that you think is best. And the other kind of politician is that person who thinks that they want a title and they want to take some pictures and they want to be out, essentially trying to be in some kind of a spotlight. And that's it. And that's been my experience as an elected official. Fortunately, and what keeps me doing this is that I find that the supermajority of people who are in office are those people who want to do something, who want to accomplish something for others. And there is that minority, unfortunately, of politicians who think that this is an opportunity to be in the spotlight. And obviously that's not me. Mm-hmm. The only reason, and look, politics is hard, especially for a young woman. And I tell people all the time, listen, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be putting myself through some of the less enjoyable experiences of being in public office if it wasn't because I was completely and fully dedicated to doing something for my community, for improving things in some way, for changing outcomes in whatever way that I can. If I end up changing the trajectory of even one life out there, then everything that I have done has been worth it. And frankly, I have been really lucky, I think, to have been able to experience on more than one occasion, on actually many occasions, where because of something that I did, whether it was a law that I passed or a speech that I gave, or, just even an email that I returned, someone feels like what I did changed their life. And that is a feeling that I cannot even describe to you. It's a feeling of, just a real sense of accomplishment that you did something to improve someone else's life. And it makes it all worth it. It really does. So that's the reason why I'm running for office. It's the reason why I continue to stay in politics, despite all of the other peripheral BS, if you will.
It's funny because I was thinking of a different word, but yeah, we're on the same page. Yeah.
And you just kind of stick with it, and those are the people that keep you going.
Well, okay, I'm going to ask this: what's your lowest point, and what's your highest point in your political career?
Gosh, there's been lots. Rolando's.
Yeah, I know.
Look, there's been lots of low points. I think that politics has gone.
No. What's your lowest point and what's your highest point?
I don't know that I have a lowest point. I think that I've had a series of low points that are all different in many ways. I think that politics has gotten very personal and very nasty and very ugly. And it's hard to combat lies, for example. There was a complete distortion, for example, of...
tell us about Bed and Bathgate.
Right. So
let's talk about that.
So that was exactly what I was thinking about. There was a complete and total distortion of my record of what is done in the Nevada legislature when we use our campaign funds to provide things like, for example, there was a purchase in Trader Joe's because I was buying things like snacks and oranges for my office, because we don't have that budget in Carson City as a legislator. The very same things that any business owner would purchase for their office, for their employees, that's what I was purchasing. And of course, you can use your campaign funds to purchase things that you might need in the legislature, when you're serving, when you're traveling, etc. We don't have budgets for those things. So it's perfecly acceptable. It's perfectly legal. Every last legislator does it.
Why did it blow up on you? Was it just the fact that, Rhoda, you can actually be seen on the camera, so otherwise it looks like a hand, like from the Addams family, is like reaching in out of nowhere.
Well, what happened was there was, in that particular situation, I unfortunately got bad legal counsel, and I was told to that it was okay that under the law, and if you read the statute, it is pretty ambiguous. I mean, I am a lawyer, and when you read the language, it's pretty broad, and he told us that only campaign expenses needed to be reported. So I said, okay, fine. I'll only report the campaign expenses and not report the other expenses, the non-campaign expenses. And, there was a handful of us who decided to do that. In retrospect, it was a bad decision. I should have just, always stay on the side of caution and report more instead of less. I absolutely admit that. And if I could go back and avoid all of the entire thing, I would definitely do it. I've been nothing but transparent with my life, with everything that I do, except for that one occasion when I unfortunately made the wrong choice. That being said, there was nothing illegal about what I did. And unfortunately, the Secretary of State at the time, Ross Miller, decided that that even though we were relying on legal counsel, that he was going to give us a personal fine anyway. And so me and like 8 other colleagues of mine who also chose to do the same thing ended up paying a small fine. And then, of course, that ended up being a $500,000 ad buy, saying things like I had gone to Hawaii, that I had made all these purchases, that I was living the high life. And that's just completely and totally false. It's false. It's inaccurate. And unfortunately, when you don't have another $500,000 or $1 million to, people would say, well, if it's not true, why don't you say something? And I would say, because unless you have a $500,000 laying around for me to purchase a bunch of commercials so that I can respond to that, there's nothing I can do. And so that's when it really starts to, that's how campaigns are won and lost, because of the amount of money that's coming in. Any last person, the Koch brothers, Adelson, anyone who has an axe to grind and has enough money to do it, can go produce a commercial, say whatever they want about you. It can be completely and totally false. There's nothing illegal about that. Your only remedy, of course, is, a slander or a libel or some kind of a civil remedy. But of course, by the time you go through that process, what's been done? Commercials out there, the election's probably over. So there really is no recourse. And people can legally lie, say whatever they want about you. And if there's enough money behind it, it can really hurt you.
Well, you're running for CD4 now, and that's going to come up again because it's easy. It's been done. So what are you going to do this time differently than you did in the lieutenant governor's race? And before that, though, what's your highest point?
Oh, gosh, my highest point, I've also I've also had a lot of them. I've been very lucky to just have so many different experiences. Obviously, like, again, hearing from those random people throughout these years, that the one thing that I did, profoundly changed their life. That's one of the highest points that I can think of. I've obviously had personal experiences, where coming from the background that I do, where obviously my family, my dad has a 3rd grade education. He has my degree, my university degree from USC when I graduated. It's hanging on his wall. He wouldn't let me have my own diploma, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do then, Dad? I need a diploma, but he's just so proud and never imagined that one of his daughters would be doing what I'm doing, and frankly, even graduating from college. It's things like that, they're all, to me, they're pretty equivalent. They're all. Yeah.
Why are you running for CD4?
Well, it's my community, first and foremost. I've always lived in North Las Vegas. I feel very, my roots are there, and I really, really, really care about this community. I care about all of Nevada, but this is where I grew up. And so for me to have the opportunity to give back in some way, to again change those trajectories, change those lives, whether that's through passing legislation or whether that's through developing some innovative public-private partnership, bringing in philanthropic dollars, bringing in corporate sponsorships, whatever it is, to programming in the district, then for me to have the opportunity to be able to do that, to basically give back and do for others what was done for me, I think is just one of the best opportunities that anyone could ever have. And so that's why I decided to run for CD4. That's why I decided to run for public office to begin with.
Well, I personally think that North Las Vegas that whole area has this huge potential. I've been talking to people in the fashion industry, and they're talking about how they would love to bring fashion manufacturing to North Las Vegas. There's space. It's inexpensive to live here, that kind of thing. What are some of the things that you want to bring to North Las Vegas, or to CD4, I should say, because North Las Vegas is not only, that's not the only part of CD4. There's the rurals, which we always hear so much about. What do you want to bring to CD4?
And yes, I agree. And North Las Vegas is not all of CD4. And I think that's the really awesome thing about this district. I did have the opportunity to run statewide for lieutenant governor. And it was such an amazing experience because, I grew up, again, in this area. But, my dad used to take us hunting. So we'd go up to Ely and we'd go fishing in Overton. And, when you're growing up with not a whole lot of stuff, we were able to take advantage of what was free out there, and the environment is free, and we were able to do a lot of outdoor activities. And so being able to spend so much time traveling the entire state and going back to Ely and Yerington and spending some time in the rurals, and not only that, but as a legislator, I was able to learn, like you noted, I don't spend all of my time just focusing on one community or one issue. I like to spend my time learning as much as I can and trying to be innovative where I can. And so one of the things that I was working on was the agricultural department when I was chair of one of the budget subcommittees. And I learned so much about agriculture and urban ag opportunities and the technology and the development around that, and the fact that we are living in a drought-stricken region and that water is one of our major issues in this state. And so the agricultural opportunities within the entire district are just amazing. But the thing about this district is that it is so diverse. It has that rural component. It has kind of a suburban, Western Summerlin area. It's got the urban areas. It's got every community that you can think of. And I think that that's what makes this district so special. And so that's really what I want to do, is I want to be able to focus on the various issues that can bring economic development opportunities to the various communities, and do it in a way that makes sense for that community.
Well, that's what this is going to ask next. The fact that you used to go out to the rurals when you were a kid, I would assume gives you not more insight. How do I put this? You said the environment. You said you enjoyed the environment for free. What do the rurals want as far as the environment? I know a lot of times people feel like the folks from the big cities come in and tell them, you got to save the sage grouse. You got to do this or that, and it directly conflicts with what they want. Have you been in the rurals and listened to them and found out what they want?
Absolutely. I think that there's definitely conflicting interests, that we have to be aware of. There's definitely ranching and agriculture and, of course, mining. And look, I certainly am not one of those people who is a hardliner on things. I think that there's always a space to negotiate, to talk, to figure out solutions, and to listen. Absolutely. And so I respect people's way of life in rural Nevada. It is a little different from obviously living in a big city. The same way that it's different living in a big city, you wouldn't necessarily understand how people live in a small community in rural Nevada. And so you have to respect the fact that there's generations of Nevadans who've been ranching, or generations of Nevadans who've been mining. But at the same time, it's about finding that balance, finding that equilibrium, and saying, okay, how can we ensure that your cattle are able to graze? And how do we ensure that there's going to be enough water for not only your crops, but also the people who need to live throughout the state, whether it's in rural Nevada or in urban Nevada? Like, we all need water.
Well, I have to give a shout out to the rurals, because I oftentimes just drive, and every time I've gone out there, I love the rurals. It's beautiful. It's Nevada has such beautiful topography, and the people are just amazing out there. You don't get any of the things that you think you're gonna get.
That's right.
You just people in the city assume, oh, it's just a bunch of redneck yokels, and they're not. They're just really nice people.
Just amazing communities. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed my last race, because again, I was able to get that real insider perspective into these communities. And if you haven't spent time like that in all parts of Nevada, then I think that, you miss out. You're missing out a little bit on a different perspective. Yeah. And I think I'm really privileged to have been able to get that.
Well, I could easily go into like your story, but I'm going to avoid your story because I want to hear more about what you've done. Real briefly, elevator pitch your story. But I mean, really briefly, because I think that we need to go on to policy.
Yes, and Chris Miller wants to talk too.
Sit there and look pretty, Chris. Dimples up.
Well, you know, a lot of people obviously know my background because I did spend a lot of time talking about it over the last several years, and certainly in the campaign for lieutenant governor. And the reason I always tell people, the reason why I share it is because two things. One, it explains my motivation and why I'm so deeply committed to trying to give back and essentially pay it forward, because I feel like that was absolutely done for me, and so it's my obligation to try to do it for others. And two, it's because I share it because oftentimes I'm trying to connect dots for people. I'm trying to convince my legislative colleagues. I'm trying to convince people in general, communities, that there are real life challenges that people experience out there, that people are still experiencing. And I personally experienced many of those same challenges. And so I talk about, you know, the fact that my dad moved us here to Las Vegas because of a family tragedy. His oldest son, his firstborn, and my other brother were murdered because of drug and gang violence in East LA. So we came to Vegas, and you know, we did grow up very, very poor. We didn't have a whole lot of resources. My dad is an immigrant. My mom is, my parents are immigrants from Mexico. And so, you know, we were very much making do like lots of low-income families do in this country. But it wasn't until my mom left when I was 9 that I really started to experience a lot of problems. There was, you know, obviously a lot of kids still in the home. And my dad literally started working day and night to keep us clothed and fed. And, you know, things just really went from bad to worse for me. And I was a good student. I was in gifted and talented education, but that didn't matter because when I was in junior high and I started hanging out with the wrong crowd because that's all there was around me, no one intervened. There was no intervention, not a counselor, not a teacher, not an anybody to wonder why some gifted and talented kid was all of a sudden failing every single advanced placement exam that she took. And so, you know, I ended up just with no intervention, just kind of getting even worse, hanging out with a bad crowd, getting arrested, running away from home, doing all these really bad things. And I ended up on juvenile parole at 15 and a high school dropout at 16. And again, it was because of those lack of role models and mentors and people who were saying, you know, Lucy, there's a different life out there. You can be different. I grew up 2 blocks from the community college on Cheyenne, and I never knew that that building was a college, that it was an institution of higher education until I was dropping out of high school. And that to me is unacceptable. There shouldn't be any kids out there who've never heard or have never been told you can go to college. As a matter of fact, you will go to college, right? That we haven't set those expectations for so many of our young people out there because our educational system is failing them the way that it failed me. So that's why I tell my story. And frankly, as I said, I all of my experience that I've talked about, I always talk about it in terms of doing something about it. I don't ever talk about myself just to talk about myself. Frankly, I get really, really tired of talking about myself.
Well, she's got to be tired telling her story.
But I do it, and where there's an opportunity to make a point, and when there's an opportunity to try to drive that message home for people, I do it. And I think that it's important. We need to continue, as I said at the beginning, talking about the realities, the challenges that so many people have, because that's the only way that we're going to get to a point where we can try to fix them.
Well, you know, Chris Miller and I talk all the time about mentoring, and I don't think we do enough of it. And,
agreed.
You know, and like last night we were talking about it.
Yeah, you know, I went to an event yesterday morning or yesterday at lunch, and the facilitator of the organization invited some young people, gay and lesbian and transgender youth, and they wanted to come and sit with some gay business people or people in the business community to find out how to move themselves from being young into the business world. And it dawned on me, we don't do that in the gay community at all. And I can't speak for other communities because I'm not as involved, but it was an eye-opening experience to think, okay, I was once 21 years old, a long time ago, no comments. And the struggle today is different than the struggle was then. And they do need someone who's been through part of that,
right,
to explain
Absolutely.
to them and be there for them when they have questions and concerns and resumes and job interviews and just what's going on in the business world.
Right. Absolutely. Completely agreed. And, until we really have to start to institutionalize that in some way, because there just isn't enough happening on its own organically. Right. Because if it was, then we would have all of these kids out there. We'd have all these communities that have mentors, that have people who are, we always say, or at least I've often heard, and I've said myself, that when you're climbing up that ladder, you should always remember to look down and give that hand to that person behind you.
I think there's so many communities that do that, but there's so many communities that don't. Like, I know that the Jewish community is very good on that. I know that I look at a lot of the Muslims; they're very good on that because they have a sense of community where it's expected that you help your fellow person. That's interesting, though, that I just hit the Jewish and the Muslim communities. All right, y'all, get it together, be happy. But yeah, Chris is right. In the gay community, we're like sort of fighting one another. In the black community, there are definitely people like the 100 black men, 100 black women who try, but they're fighting against a tide. When it comes to Congress, let's talk about why you should be there. What's your record?
I'm very, very proud of my record. Since I'm very driven, but I'm driven not for personal gain. I'm driven to accomplish, right? Because there's no other reason to be here if it's not for the purpose of trying to accomplish something. And to a certain extent, I'm definitely a little impatient in that part. That was one of the things that I really, really, really grew and personally developed, because as soon as I was elected back in 2010, one of the very first things that was just so eye-opening to me was the pace and how slow things happen and how hard it is to change status quo. It doesn't happen overnight. But that being said, I was very determined to get my legislation and the things that were important to me done. And it wasn't easy, but at the same time, it was really, really worth it. And the various pieces of legislation that I was able to get done, everything from domestic violence prevention to, we have one of the most comprehensive domestic violence prevention laws in the entire country now. It's based on a federal law. And it allows victims of domestic violence to leave without obligation their rental agreements in wherever they are.
It kills me. I never really thought about it before, but a woman or any victim of domestic violence can be trapped simply because the landlord says you can't break this lease. It's going to cost you this much money to break this lease, and you're like, I just got to get out of here.
That's right. And one, you don't have the money, and two, who's going to rent it for you?
Because you broke a lease,
right? Because you broke a lease.
Yeah, they're going to look at that and say, well, you have a lease on your.
That's exactly right. There's some very practical realities.
You tell somebody, "Oh, I was a victim of domestic violence. Oh, I don't want that coming here." It's a stigma thing. Then.
That's exactly right. And even though that's illegal, can't discriminate against that.
That's what
People do it anyway. And so, so from that piece of legislation that I passed to protecting consumers from folks who are practicing law without a license. So, you have all of these people who are advertising paralegal services and notario services and, all these various things. And they're really hurting people. And it's not just the immigrant community. It is senior citizens. It's people who can't afford lawyers. It's people who are losing their kids and getting bad family settlement deals because, some random person on the corner with a sign produced and prepared their divorce documents, and they completely got left with nothing and lost their children.
We were just talking about a lawyer who was disbarred because basically she was taking people's money for immigration and filing bankruptcies.
Oh, it is a massive problem. The bankruptcy issue also. There's just all facets of law. And so it isn't just about one community. It was about a widespread consumer protection issue. And now we have one of the most comprehensive programs around that in the entire country as well. So, I can definitely go on.
But that's my point, though. And that's the point I was going to bring up. As I said at the beginning, I'm an unabashed fan. And I look at your opponents, and I don't see any record on any of the, City Four is sort of turning into the Republican presidential nomination because
none of them are clowns. Trust me, I'm a Democrat. I represent Democrats. Don't call them clowns.
See, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Chris is chair of the party, right. And occasionally reaches across Dolce in my car and slaps the living hell out of me. So I didn't say there were clowns. I said there was a lot of them. I call whatever. But yeah, it seems to me that there's a lot of glamour posturing. There's a lot of I want it because I want it. There's a lot of I want it because I deserve it.
Right.
And then you've got actual legislative accomplishments that you can point to. Is it going to count?
I do think it's going to count. I think that, people want someone who I think they genuinely believe is there to help them. And I think that voters don't get enough credit. I think that, and I know that we, tend to get very frustrated because of the low voter turnout and things like that. And yes, we have to work on that. But I do think that voters don't get enough credit, and they can tell when someone is not being genuine. They can tell when someone's being fake. They can tell when someone is there because, they're motivated by maybe not the right reasons. And so I have a lot of faith in voters. And I do think that when we start to compare records, when that information starts to go out there, when hopefully we have some debates, and I do hope that all of the candidates will be open to debate, because in the last lieutenant governor's race, unfortunately, Mark avoided debating me as much as humanly possible.
And
unfortunately,
he had no record.
He had no point.
Well, and it's been a strategy, and unfortunately, it has been a strategy that's tended to work a little bit. So I do hope that all of them will debate, because that I do think that if people are going to run, they should run on their record.
Absolutely, and I will say right now, I will be relentless. I love debates. I do. I really love them. I watched speaking of clown cars, the Las Vegas mayor's race, when it was Carolyn, Chris G, that pig George Harris, all sorts of things. That was like 32 people in the race, but it was fun. I mean, I felt like a part of the process watching them debate one another. I felt like I was getting to know when Joe Heck and Dina Titus debated. I felt like I finally got to learn who they were. So yeah, I was there for Lincoln and Douglas back in the day.
And I do hope that the majority of Democrats, especially our activist base and those people who are really, really, are party faithful, I hope that they will demand that all of the candidates debate, not just once, but several times throughout this cycle, because I do think it's important. And I think that is something that is being lost in the political process because of all these bad things that we talked about, right? All these negative attack ads and the money, and, just kind of trying to attack each other as relentlessly as you can.
Chris Miller?
Well, since you brought that up, and since I'm listening to the reasons why, and it's because the party stays neutral in races before there's a candidate.
Correct.
I will tell you that I will do everything in my power to have the Clark County Democratic Party host one of those debates.
Oh, I think that's a wonderful idea.
Those debates. Let's go again. Let's go again. How many of them?
Well, I will commit to hosting one of them. We'll see how many we can host after that. But I think it's important that, listen, there's 3 Democrats in the race right now in the primary. Rumor is there's going to be 1 or 2 more. They're not clowns, Derek.
I didn't say
they're real Democrats who want to make a difference in
I said a lot of people.
And ultimately, the voters have to decide which one is the best candidate to defeat Crescent Hardy, because Crescent Hardy does not share our values.
I just can't hear his name without
he doesn't share anything about who we are as Democrats and who we are as Nevadans. Or a representation of the demographics of the district. And he is a supporter of lawbreaker Cliven Bundy. Let's just put that at the top of the list. He supports someone who's breaking the law. That's something that we can't have any longer in that district. And so it's important that we elect a Democrat, and we elect a Democrat who's going to defeat him.
So you're going to help sponsor 10 debates throughout this state?
I said 1. We'll look at more.
10 debates.
And so count me in for that 1 debate.
Thank you.
Okay.
10 debates. 10 debates. 10 debates. I'm going to scream for 10 debates. Going forward, I hear all the time, education. I've been here, I came here the first time in 98, and I left because I was culture starved, which goes back to education.
Yep, absolutely.
Now I think Las Vegas, at least, I don't know about the rest of the state, Las Vegas at least has a very thriving cultural scene, very, very thriving. But we still don't have an education scene.
Right.
I'll be honest. I'm a single gay male. I literally don't have to care about education.
Right. Except that you literally do.
But I literally do. But here's my point. I'm sort of tired of hearing about education, and it seems to be the same story. And then what makes it worse is I talked to somebody who's been here for 50 years, and it's the exact same story. It has never, ever, ever changed. Is that something that a person in Congress can even do anything about? Or are you on a different level? And then I just real quick want to ask you yes or no fast track trade. But go ahead.
Okay, so fast track, absolutely not.
Good.
I've been a very vocal opponent of that since even before it really started making its way through, and certainly, before it unfortunately passed through the Senate. And so that's an easy one. But the education issue, look, it is important. And you're right. We have talked about it. There was never a will to do anything about it, though, until recently. And I just think that it's one of those issues, like any other issue, where it just doesn't happen overnight, and there had to be almost a collective momentum behind it for anything to actually get done. And I do think that we have finally kind of sounded that alarm, beaten that drum, until there was finally a collective recognition amongst Nevadans, because it couldn't just be, a couple of people. It needed to be in a community that finally prioritized and valued education. And for a long time, that just wasn't done in Nevada, for lots of reasons. The composition of our economy, the essentially the low need for highly skilled people, et cetera. There was a lot of reasons. But now that our economy is changing, now that we're trying to not just try, but we're actually focused on diversifying the economy and bringing in new kinds of industries, we recognize that we weren't going to be able to do that unless we had the skilled people available to do that. And as far as, and let me just get to the Congress thing, and as far as a congressional person being able to do, look, I'm very honest with people, and I tell folks all the time, as a freshman member of Congress, if anyone is out there promising to shake up Congress and to change it and to
and you're a Tea Party member,
right? Be that change the status. I mean, that's obviously not realistic, right? You're not going to go into Congress as a freshman member and expect to change the entire agenda, or frankly, even to expect to pass a law until we can get those Tea Partiers out of Congress. And so the person who goes to Congress needs to be more open-minded and forward-thinking about the way that they're going to serve. You should absolutely focus on trying to reach across the aisle and do whatever you can to pass laws that are going to benefit Nevada, whether that's working with our other Republican congressional delegation. And, Stephen Horsford had some success in doing that, in bringing some legislation forward with, I believe, Amadei to benefit some of the rural areas. And so there's opportunities for that. But frankly, they're going to be pretty limited, and that's just the reality of our congressional environment. So the person has to be really forward thinking about the way that they're going to use that platform to be a loud voice, to be an advocate for these issues. You can use that platform as a bully pulpit. You can be out there and say, listen, I know I'm not serving in your legislature. Listen, I know I'm not serving on your school board, but I'm here because I just want to make sure that you guys know the importance of what you're doing, funding education or changing the funding formula or whatever it is, right? Like, that congressional person can be out there and use their platform, use their staff, use the ability to, bring their volunteers and their supporters out and build momentum around an issue. I just think that person can be creative about the way they use that office and using it to get things done.
All of that is why I love Dana Titus.
Exactly.
Because I think she does everything you just said right there. She really uses her office as a way of just keeping us all focused.
And the other thing that she does, and Shelley did before her, is the accessibility to her local office. And if you have an issue, her staff jumps on it and takes care of it.
Exactly.
And that's the other thing. Yes, you're a freshman. You're one of 435 people in Congress, and you don't have the stature or the longevity there to make a difference, but you can make a difference in your community by having a strong district office here in the district and taking care of the veterans issues and the foreclosure issues and the unemployment issues and all those other things that impact your residents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've actually had several people who have referred to Dina Titus's office to help save their homes or to get their benefits and things like that. And I don't think people take enough advantage of that. But yeah, Dina makes us proud, and I think you'll make us proud. I know you'll make us proud because we're gonna send you to Washington after 10 debates, and
I'm happy to do them.
That Chris Miller will host. But okay, before Chris and I talk about like weekend stuff, and I don't know if you're going to be around this weekend, but Chris will talk about what we're having. But you're especially invited to the Black Democratic Empowerment Project barbecue at Roberta Lang's house, which we'll talk about. But anyway. How do people get a hold of Lucy? How do people donate money so that when we have to have a $500,000 ad buy
exactly,
because someone's relying on her?
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully they're not, but I don't know.
Really,
We're gonna knock on some wood. Maybe people decide not to lie on me again. So you can go to lucyflores.com and contribute. And actually, I'm not going to release any fundraising figures, but I will say that we are.
You got a smile on your face.
Yes, well, we did well.
The fundraising quarter ended.
We did well. But I'm most especially proud of my individual donor number. We hit over 400 in the 2 months that I've been an announced candidate, over 400 individual contributors.
Nice.
And, they ranged from literally $2.50 to, of course, the $2,700 max out. And so we were just really thrilled that people really felt and they believe that, because I tell people, we tell people all the time, it doesn't matter, it all makes a difference, but they don't really feel like it does. But over 400 people felt like they did make a difference and contributed whatever they could. And so I was really, really, my team, everyone was really excited that we were able to hit such a great number.
The 250 thing, we'll talk about that. The only time that I've ever donated anything, I was like, they ask you to donate $1,000 million. And it's like, no. Then they ask you to donate $1,000,000. No. And then they ask you, like, can we get 500? And then it goes up, can we get 20 out of you? And it's like, still no. Right. And it's like, how about 10? No. And then President Obama asked for 3, and I'll give you 3.
Yes, exactly. You will. It's kind of easy to do $3. But look, if 10,000 people do $3,
yeah.
That's a lot of money. It's $30,000.
Yeah.
And so you just it does add up, and people don't realize the impact that their $3 can have. And so again, that's why I highlight the fact that we have over 400 individual donors that we were able to get.
Could donate to. I just realized this. You could donate to Lucy's campaign 1 Starbucks.
That's exactly.
Because when we go to Starbucks,
and you're spending like double that,
right,
triple that at Starbucks.
So if you take 1 Starbucks out of your day, or in Chris Miller's case, since he always pays for mine, 2 Starbucks out of your day, you could actually be donating to help get a real person into Congress, as opposed to someone who reminds me of the Pillsbury Doughboy. I'm sorry. So I
don't know who that person is, but yes, we will. Chris and I will.
Maybe that's Chris and Hartley.
Well, no, we're not going to say bad things. No, personal things. Remember, we talked about that.
That's you guys.
Because remember, my donation of not having a Starbucks and donating can't start till after there's 1 candidate.
This is true. Chris Miller has to stay neutral because he is chairman of the party, and he has been very good about that. Me, on the other hand, I am unabashedly a Lucy Flores pro, and I want you to take your Starbucks money and give it to her.
Thank you.
Because I believe in her.
And her staff hangs out at Starbucks. So
you just hand it to them.
That's true.
Get a freaking receipt.
We often hang out at Starbucks.
It's funny because all the campaigns are like, well, we don't really have an office, so we're at Starbucks. Starbucks, you're getting like the biggest commercial.
They really are. And, and so when people try to lie on me again, if they see Starbucks on my campaign report,
it is to see me because I see your staff there.
It is a legitimate campaign expense. Let's not be lying
their
again.
Their little heads are buried in their computers, and they've got like all of that caffeine going. Well, thank you.
And also my contact information is at lucyflores.com as well. And contrary to what Rolando might think, I do return phone calls and emails. So
Rolando be messing with people.
He's cutting the plug.
Well, thank you so much, because I know that you have places to go and we started a little late. So
well, I really appreciate.
Yeah, but she got stuff to do.
And if I can leave and you guys can keep talking, but remember, it's still being recorded. So if you say anything about me, I can hear it.
Right. And you'll see it on YouTube too.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. It's a real privilege.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris Miller.
Bye, everyone.
See, that's Lucy. Say bye, Lucy.
Bye, Lucy.
Oh, that looks really gay of me. Bye.
Please.
Oh, no, it looks like a pterodactyl.
I'm scooting over here.
All right, Chris Miller. This is the 4th of July weekend, and this is a lot of Democratic stuff going on. And just so you know, when you listen to Talking While Black with Derek Washington, it's straight up Democrat up in here. And I will invite Republicans, but not really.
Heaven help them.
Yeah, God, if you're a Republican and you get invited, it means one of two things: either respect you because I think you tell the truth, your truth, whatever that may be, or I'm going to take you apart limb by limb. So, but one of the two.
Good ratings.
Yeah, so you'll never know, but more than likely it's because I respect you. I'm not like trying to be all gotcha. Let's talk Democrat. What we got going this weekend?
Oh, is that your other show? Let's talk Democrat.
Let's talk Democrat.
What do you want to know?
Tell us what's going on.
We celebrate America's 239th birthday on Saturday.
God, I'm like 2 years older than America. Yeah. That makes you what, 5 years older? Oops, I said it.
Far from it. And we have a lot of things going on across Clark County, a lot of things that are going to be involving really great Democrats in Clark County. We start off Saturday morning with the Boulder Jamboree, the 67th annual Boulder Jamboree, and our Senate candidate, Catherine Cortez Masto, is going to be out there early Saturday morning at the Rotary Club's breakfast, serving pancakes to the individuals who come out there that early in the morning, and it'll be 100 degrees that early in the morning, so you all need to get out there early
and get pancakes
and sausage.
I'm so fat. Go ahead.
Why does it always come back to you, Derek?
It's very relevant.
Anyways, and then Catherine and her team will be walking in the annual parade out there.
And how do people sign up with their team?
They can go to CatherineCortezMasto.com, or they can go to they can call me 702-569-6744, and I will give them all the information on where they need to go and where they need to be.
I gotta do it. He's also single.
I am single. So that's going on Saturday morning in Boulder City. And the Boulder City Dems, Derek, they're in this parade every year. They always accommodate any of our Democratic candidates, and the Boulder City Dems do a fantastic job of the visibility we need in Boulder City, which is sometimes rough, but they're out there and they're proud Democrats.
And if you've never been to Boulder City, it's cool.
It's cool.
I really like Boulder City. It's charming. It's like a little town. I really like Boulder City.
And there is a section of the parade that we will not be going through this year. It's called the water section of the parade, where it's basically a water fight. It's big water guns and hoses.
And a 100-degree day. That sounds like a really good day.
I went through it last year with another candidate, and it was quite fun.
Yeah, cool.
Quite fun.
At 100 degrees.
At 100 degrees.
Yeah.
After the Boulder Parade, on your way back from Boulder City, as you're coming into Henderson, you should stop at the Henderson Democratic Club Barbecue. It's at the home of Cassie Rice. And again, if you want more information on that, you can go to hendersondems.com, or you can call me at 702-569-6744, or you can go on Facebook and go to the Henderson Democratic Club Facebook page. Bring a dish, have some fun with the Henderson Democratic Club.
They're fun. They're the Black Democratic Empowerment Project sister club. They helped us get started.
They did. And Cassie and her husband have a very beautiful home in the southern part of Henderson, and very accommodating and open to both Democratic members of the organization, and you usually get a few candidates stop by. I know when Lucy was running for lieutenant governor, she stopped by last year and met with the group. So it's a really great event. I'm told Catherine Cortez Masto is probably going to stop by after the parade as well, so a chance to get some one-on-one time with our future senator. At the same time, in the 11 to 2 range, we have an event going on up in North Las Vegas at Nature Discovery
Nature
Park.
Discovery Park, and can you talk about this?
I can't talk about that.
Talk about this
because it's about a candidate who's putting on an event, but it's a community event. It's a barbecue. It's voter registration. So what I can say is, if you need to go register a Democrat to vote, go to Nature Discovery Park Saturday at 11 o'clock, and there will be someone there to register you. You can talk about the event.
Talk about it. Danielle Monroe Marino is a corrections officer in North Las Vegas. She is running for, what's the district she's running?
Assembly District 1.
Assembly District 1 she is running for, which is Marilyn Kirkpatrick's seat. I believe she has Marilyn Kirkpatrick's endorsement or support. And Danielle is one of the people who actually sat around the table and conceived the Black Democratic Empowerment Project. She has been a member of so many Democratic clubs. She has really worked her butt off. She's the former
second vice chair.
Former second vice chair. She puts on the JJ dinners every year. If ever there was a Democrat who deserves your support, it's Danielle Monroe Marino, and that's going to be Nature Discovery Park from 11 to 2. 11 to 2.
And there's other candidates showing up. I know Senator Spearman is going to come by.
Everybody likes Danielle, and there's a reason. She does what she says. She doesn't. She walks the walk. She doesn't talk the talk. Another person, unabashedly in favor of, and I like her opponent too. But honestly, Danielle will do the job, and she will be a great voice and face in Carson City. What's up after that?
After that, there's a little bit of a break before we go to the Black Democratic Empowerment Project. First annual. I'm calling it the first annual because you got to do it every year.
Yeah.
It's at the home of Nevada State Democratic Party Chairwoman Roberta Lang. If you want information on that,
don't call me.
The other single person in the room.
Do not call me.
702-576-4978.
That is my old phone number, and thank you for that. No, don't call me. But what you can do is you can go on Facebook and look up Black Democratic Empowerment Project. We'll have the information up today. You can also go on my Facebook, which is Derek L. Washington, and find it, but don't call me. And we do want you to bring some dishes, bring some side dishes, not side pieces, but side dishes. We'll have burgers and hot dogs and all that stuff. We'll have really cool music. And I have to ask you, can we use the county PA system?
For
the barbecue?
I'll think about it.
Okay. Anyway, because we do music. We're Black, and everybody is welcome. We love the place packed, and it's the Black Democratic Empowerment Project, and we will be able to see fireworks. We have to walk down to the end of the street, into the cul-de-sac, where we can see fireworks. So basically, it's where you can wrap up your day. It won't be quite so hot, and then we also have our meeting coming up on the 14th. Which will be tell me about that. It's like a candidates thing.
For those of you who don't know and are members of our central committee, our annual or biannual e-board elections are coming up July 18th, and on July 14th, at your regular scheduled meeting day, the elections chair and committee of the Clark County Democratic Party is holding a candidate meet and greet so that the members of the central committee who vote can have an opportunity to meet with candidates and get to know who everybody is before we cast their vote on July 18th.
And if you're somebody that doesn't care about that, guess what? We have the head of the A. Philip Randolph Institute, and for those of you who know, that's the Pullman Porters back in the day. He's going to be there. He's going to be telling us all about the role of blacks in unions from the very beginning and what a role we played in the development of unions and workers' rights in this country. So that's super important. And then Sunday, Chris Miller is going to be performing at the Writers Block from 4 to 6, along with many really cool people in the Las Vegas community. We're doing a poetry slam, and it's going to be talking about social justice, community activism, that kind of thing. And Chris, what's the name of the poem you're reading?
It's called Wild Geese.
Do you want to do it right now? Let's close this out. We're almost done. Rolando, it's time for us to be over.
I want to debut it on Sunday.
All right.
Just understand it is by and I'm sorry I don't remember the poet's name off the top of my head.
Was it somebody?
It is from one of Secretary Clinton's favorite poets, and it's one of her favorite poems by.
And this is a Ready for Hillary event, but it's being there and performing does not imply that anyone in any way, shape, or form is, Chris has to be neutral, but he was nice enough when the campaign asked him to do this. And Bernie Sanders, folks, if y'all ask him, I'm sure he'll do it.
I'll be happy to.
Martin O'Malley, I'm sure you'll be doing it.
The name of the poet is Mary Oliver, and the name of the poem is Wild Geese.
Yeah, so that's going to be a really cool event, and you can look on Facebook, look up Poetry Slam, and we're already almost to capacity, so if you want to go, you got to let us know. Rolando, can we get out of here?